What is going on, guys? We are now 2 weeks into the new Merge Tactics season. There are 26 cards in the game, and today I'm going to rank them all from worst to best. At number 26, I've placed the Skeleton Dragons. Now, if you guys have played the game for long at all, you know why they are down here. The Ranger synergy is the worst in the game, in my opinion, and Undead isn't that great as well. Besides, the Skeleton Dragons are just very bad stat-wise, and their ability actually harms them more than it hurts them, in my opinion. It's kind of like the Goblin Drill in normal Clash Royale, how the evolution is actually worse than the card. If there was no ability with the Skeleton Dragons, I actually think they'd be better, but they split to create a new Skeleton Dragon after every few attacks, and the time it takes to split, and it loses its target, and it has so little HP. Just really overall not a good card. I don't recommend you use this. At number 25, I have the Electro Giant. Now, his synergies are not horrible. The Electric synergy and the Avenger synergy are not bad, but he is absolutely trash. It was so funny. I was talking about him in the Discord. And by the way, if you guys are not in the Discord, make sure you join up. Link in the bio and link in the description. But I was talking about him in the Discord, and somebody called him a trait dummy, which is so true because all he does is just sit there and get killed. He doesn't do any damage. He'll stun every once in a while with his ability, but he's just overall not a really good card whatsoever. I do think he needs to have the Avenger trait taken away and be turned into a Brawler. That would help him, give him more HP. But right now, he is just not a great card at all. The only reason you should use him is to complete your comps. He's not going to provide you any value stat-wise. All right, at number 24, I have Princess, and this is probably going to be surprising to a lot of y'all, especially if you haven't played much this season. But Princess is one of the best cards last season, fell off to number 24. She is very bad this season. The Ranger synergy is not great at all. Out of all five nobles, the other four are better than her by far, so she really has no place in any comps. She got her hit speed nerfed, which is really annoying because she already was really slow to start with. She just doesn't speed up fast at all in the Rangers comp, and overall she's just not very good. I mean, noble as it stands isn't a great trade to run 4 out of 4 on anyways, and obviously Rangers is really bad. So just her traits are bad. But even her stats are even worse, and that's what tanks her down to number 24 on this list. All right, I have Archer at number 23, and it's in a similar vein because she is part of the Ranger comp, and she is very useless in that comp. But she does have the clan tag, which makes her a bit better. Plus her stats, I think for a 2 elixir card aren't horrible. She's not as good as the other 2 elixir ranged cards, like Spear Gob. I don't think she even does as much damage as Skeleton Dragons, so I think in like a 1v1 you kind of want a Skeleton Dragon as long as it doesn't split into 2. So her stats aren't great and her Ranger comp isn't great, but the clan tag is good enough this season. It's not amazing, but it's good enough that it carries her to being number 23 and not lower on the list. Number 22, I have Barbarians. This was I thought about putting him higher, but it's really just because his tags, the Brawler tag kind of carries him. The clan tag is mediocre, like I said, and his stats just aren't great. Way less damage than a Stab Gob, and way less health than a Knight. It's not even like a perfect balance of the two. He's just overall a worse card. So definitely not one you want to run unless you're running 4 Brawler or 4 Clan. Both comps, I mean, you need to have the 4 out of 4 to make them legit. Well, Brawler not really, but if you're running 2 out of 4 Brawler, he's not going to be the one you're running. So overall, just not a great card stat-wise, and his tags aren't good enough to carry him up like some of the other 2 elixir cards are. All right, at number 21, we have possibly the biggest fall off of all of the cards. Bandit fell from number 1 to number 21. Insane fall off. And the biggest reason for it is just the fact that they massively nerfed her hits to dash. So, she used to be dashing every single hit at 3-star. Now I think it takes her, it doesn't show the stats here, but I think it takes her 3 hits at a 3-star to even dash. So her ability just got tanked horribly. She's not great as an assassin because she doesn't have enough HP, and so she dives to the back and doesn't do enough damage and then just sits there and normally dies before she can even dash once. Every other assassin is better than her, in my opinion. The ace trait has fallen off a lot as well. They are not nearly as good as they were. Running 4 ace even isn't good because the bandit's bad. So, we ran 4 ace with everything last season, even just on its own because bandit was so good, but now the ace comp is kind of trash because bandit fell off so hard and the cards don't really synergize well together. So overall, just a really huge nerf to the card in every single aspect, with traits, with stats, with ability. Definitely not something you want to be running unless you absolutely need, like say somebody else, you're running assassins, but somebody else has a maxed or a maxed, Royal Ghost and Goblin, and you gotta have something to pair with your Golden Knight. Okay, I get it. But other than that, you really shouldn't be running Bandit. That's why she's at number 21. All right, at number 20, we have another card that suffered from the Ace nerf, and that is Pekka. Now, the Avenger change from Juggernaut is okay. I think that kind of works better because the other cards at Juggernaut, I think Valkyrie definitely should have been a Juggernaut over Pekka. And Avenger isn't a bad trait whatsoever. I actually use her in a few comps that I like to play, but the Ace trait, again, is not great at all. I do use the Ace trait with Executioner just to boost the Executioner even more to do more damage. But as an individual card, Pekka is okay in the first round, in the first 2 rounds even, just because she has such high DPS and health, because she can, normally take out any other frontline unit that you place against her. But after that, her stats just don't grow, and without an ability, she can't really compete with a lot of the other 3 elixir cards, and definitely 4 and 5 elixir cards later in the game. So you really just buy her to complete a trait. She does have two nice 2 out of 4 traits if you can get them. But overall, just not an incredibly good card, and so that's why she comes in at number 20. At number 19, I have Royal Ghost, which may be a surprise. Some people may put him higher, but I really don't think he's great this season. He definitely, takes one of the lower seats on the Assassins tier list. You'll see that the other 2 Assassins I obviously have ranked higher. And the Undead trait, again, just isn't one that you're really running 4 out of 4 on. Not a great stats-based card overall. I think they did nerf him, either his ability directly or, his hit speed, which affects his ability. So he definitely doesn't go crazy as much as he did last season, especially at the 3 and 4 star levels. So overall, just not a great card stat-wise, and his traits aren't really good enough to carry him. He definitely was ranked a whole lot higher, especially at the beginning of last season. I think I probably had him at the top of one of my tier lists at one point that season, but right now he's just not great, and that's why he's at number 19. All right, at number 18, I have the Dart Goblin. Now, he is much higher on the list compared to his other Ranger buddies because he is a Goblin, and that alone makes him very, very, very valuable, especially with Goblin Queen now entering the meta. He is much more usable in, not even different comps, but just to have because of the Goblin synergy. He's just, even his damage is not bad. There are some modifiers that really help with him, especially like the Last Stand modifier and, the modifier that still exists that gives hit speed for getting kills. Any high hit speed troop is going to be very valuable in those 2 modifiers. So he's just overall a decent card that, you're not going to use him to stand on his own, but when you're running Goblin Queen or, you need a Goblin for other synergies, he's definitely worth keeping in the game because, you get him to 3 stars and he's doing a decent amount of damage every single time. Up next is Spear Goblin at number 17. Now, he is one of the better 2 elixir cards by far this season, and his traits are very good. The Goblin trait, just like the Dark Goblin, is very, very valuable this season, especially with the Goblin Queen and him being a 2 elixir card. He's valuable to Spirit Empress players as well. The Blaster trait as well carries him. He's not what you're running in a 2 out of 4 blasters unless you're doing a 4 Goblin trait. But if you're running a 4 out of 4 blasters team, obviously you need him, and he's not bad in it at all. The extra range helps a lot, and he's easy to get to 3 stars if you're not playing with Goblin Queens. But if you are, if you're in a game and you're like the only Goblin Queen, you get him to 4 stars easily. Super, super strong. Definitely want to boost him with the Blaster synergy because he's just going to be doing crazy amounts of damage from far away. Very good card for only being 2 elixir. His stat, his HP is not great at all. But for the damage he does, if you protect him well, he's a decent card, and that's why he's at number 17. Okay, number 16, I have the Electro Wizard. His stats are not great. His damage is abysmal. He just does not do damage. He's there to stun, and he's there for his synergies. The Mage synergy is pretty good. It did get nerfed a bit, but you're really only running that in like 1 or 2 comps that I know of in the meta right now. Just overall, not a crazy good trait, and then the Electro trait can be good, but again, just not really OP. He's definitely, better as a card because of the stuff he can do individually, and his ability is not bad. Stuns are just so OP in merge tactics, and so that's why he's higher on the list, even though everything else kind of brings him down. But overall, yeah, you're going to use him in a few comps. I made a video on one, there's I think I'm gonna release this before, but I'm gonna make another video on a comp that uses Electro Wizard. So he's definitely used in some places, and he's not completely useless as a card, but he's just not great, especially stat and trait wise, and so that's why he falls on the lower half of the tier list. At number 15, we have the E-Wiz's buddy. We have Wizard. Wizard is slightly better just because of the fire trait. He doesn't do stuns. His damage is okay, but the fire trait really carries him. I still think even after the nerf to Baby Dragon and the fire trait as a whole, I still think they're a decent comp, especially behind some Juggernauts. And if you get throwers with the Baby Dragon, it can be really good. Plus, you use both those cards in Fimaba and just a lot of comps that can use the Wizard, just because it's a 2 out of 4 synergy. And so I think as a 2 elixir card especially, he's good because people aren't just throwing him in any comp. So if nobody's playing him, he's very, very helpful to cycle. On the bench is a Spirit Empress. That doesn't really speak much to the card as much as it does to his elixir cost, but he's a valuable card because of that. And so I think that he's usable in enough comps to where he's a decent card to hold on to on your bench, especially just if you're cycling. But his traits aren't incredible and his stats aren't amazing, but for a 2 elixir card he can hold his own, so that's why he's at number 15. At number 14 I have the Stab Goblin. Stab Goblin is an absolute unit this season because of the Assassin's dominance and Golden Knight being really, really good. I believe he also got his DPS buffed. So he's just, he does great damage, especially if you play him in Goblin Queen, you get the 4-star. He can definitely hold his own. Just a great card to have when you're starting, obviously, because of the Goblin synergy. But even with, his DPS, he can be really good. Take down some Knights one-on-one, I think. He does take down a Knight. And so it's just decent card stat-wise, and his traits really carry him as well. And so he's pretty high up on the list for being a 2 elixir card. I think he's the highest 2 elixir card on my list. Just very valuable even into the late game, which is where a lot of the 2 elixir cards fall off and become less valuable. His value stays. His DPS carries him up there to compete with cards that have abilities. So overall, just a pretty decent card, especially for being 2 elixir, and that's why he's number 14. At number 13, we have Prince, and I think this is probably the biggest rise in a card last season, possibly, not sure. But he's definitely improved a lot. His DPS, his, I think they upped his knockback. I'm not quite sure, but overall, the Brawler trait got a huge buff as well. Noble 2 out of 4 is not bad. There's a lot of comps where I just throw him in to complete a 2 out of 4 Noble comp, or 2 out of 4 Noble trait. So overall, his stats are better than last season, and his traits are decent. He's still not, an incredible card that you can throw up in a 1v1 on any situation. And normally when he dives to the back, when he does his dash at the beginning, he does die pretty quickly. But it can be helpful to snipe cards, take them out of the front line. And especially if you're not going into Juggernauts, the stun can be very, very valuable. So overall, a much better card than he was last season. Still not incredibly good, and so that's why he comes in at 13. At number 12 is the Giant Skeleton. Now, at the beginning of this season, we thought Giant Skeleton was going to be crazy and broken because of the buff to his damage, but there's just really no comps that I've seen played. Brawlers are a comp, but he just doesn't bring value with the bomb. He's always one of the last ones to die. And that's because, the Prince the dashes forward into the battle. You run him with, that's really kind of the only thing you run. You run him in Clan Avenger, but then he just stays on the front line and just, other cards kind of crowd around, especially if you're going against a range comp, and he just doesn't get value with his bomb. And so, if they swapped him to Avenger, like I think they should have swapped Brawler over to E-Giant and Avenger over to Giant Skeleton. That would be even better because, the whole goal with him is that you want him to die, which only benefits the Avenger trait, and having the Brawler trait on him just gives him a ton of HP, so he's not squishy at all. Just not, obviously a great design for the card. You want him to have that bomb when he dies, but his stats are just way too much HP. He doesn't do any damage at all. He loses a 1v1 to, I think, every single card, if I'm not mistaken. So just really not great stat-wise, and he just dies way too soon to get value out of his bomb. Now, that being said, his bomb is crazy. And so if you get a 3-star, definitely a 4-star, and if you can hit troops with it, it's very valuable. That's why he's up higher on the list, even though everything else kind of drags him down. At number 11 is the Mega Knight. And, another one of the brawlers is the last one of the brawlers and the highest ranked because his HP is pretty good, his damage is pretty good, and he stuns. Ace doesn't really do anything. I've not ran a single card with Mega Knight this season, I don't think, to give him the Ace trait, just because it's not valuable to him. Getting the damage back is kind of nice, or the health back, just because he dies into the back line pretty much, but he's tanky enough to where it doesn't really matter. I don't really run too many 2 out of 4 brawler comps, but obviously if I do, he's one of them, just because he does have that stun value. Any card that stuns is going to be ranked higher on the list. Again, I didn't mention that with Giant Skeleton, but that's another reason, because he does stun, that even though everything else about him doesn't really work well, if you get the bomb off, it does stun the enemy, and that's the same thing with Mega Knight here. There's better cards stat-wise, there's better cards in a lot of comps, but because he does have that stun, and the decent damage now, especially since they buffed it like 41% last season. I don't know if they tweaked him again and then some secret nerf, but he feels pretty good this season. Definitely not broken in any sense, so I think he fits in pretty well at 11. All right, at number 10, we have another big fall off, and actually the lowest ranked champion on this list, obviously, is the Archer Queen. So, you know, last season she was so broken, Clan Avenger was dominating the meta, and this season, you know, Clan isn't as broken as it was, Avenger isn't as broken as it was. They're still usable, and she's still a champion with a really good ability, but just the nerfs to her that came last season just kind of really tanked her going into this one, just because she didn't have those huge broken traits to rely on. So individually as a card, her stats are good, but she's just not able to hold her own in as many situations as she was. So she doesn't actually bring a ton of value to the team, except to complete the traits. Now, obviously, she's still a champion. She still does great damage. Her ability is still crazy, and that's why she's a good card, you know, in the top 10 on the list. But, you know, as far as, you know, 5-cost cards go, the other two are way better. And, you know, it takes like a 1 or 2-star queen just doesn't do anything. You have to get her 3-star to even get a lot of value out of her. And normally you can, because not a lot of people are running her. You only run her in Clan Avenger. But just because that comp fell off so hard, she's really not great. Not as great as she was, and that's why she comes in at 10. At number 9 is the Witch. Now, the Witch is kind of growing on everybody pretty rapidly, I think. Again, with the Queen, you really have to have her at 3 or 4 stars to get a ton of value out of her. But if you do, she's crazy. The amount of skeletons she spawns is insane. They just overrun your team, and, you know, she can take over a match, and it seems like it's just so confusing, because all of a sudden I'm winning a match, and then she spawns 15 skeletons, and all the rest of her troops are protected, and mine just get overwhelmed because they have to fight all these skeletons, and they just get destroyed by, you know, whatever Clan Avenger troops they're running. You know, even like some blasters that you can run with her. So overall, she's not a broken card stat-wise at all. She doesn't do like any damage whatsoever, but her HP is enough to get her to survive long enough. The Undead trait also isn't horrible. It's not great. She is one of the cards you would run in a 2 out of 4 Avenger trait, so she has some use there, but her ability is just really good at the high star levels. She can completely overtake a match, and any card that does that deserves to be in the top 10, and that's why I have her at 9. Alright, at number 8 is the Baby Dragon. Now, the nerf that came to Fire and to Baby Dragon as a whole to Baby Dragon and Fire took it down. At number 8 is the Baby Dragon. Now, the nerf that came to the Fire trait and to Baby Dragon knocked him down a few pegs from where he would have been at the beginning of the season. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to wait a few weeks before I made my tier list, so I could understand all the cards very well, and so that I could see what kind of initial balance changes were rolled out. But I feel like they have him at a much better spot now, and he's still a really, really good card. His hit speed is so slow, but the damage he does is crazy, especially when he stacks it with the Fire trait, plus the blasters are just so broken. If you get a blaster and a fire with the Baby Dragon, even at 2 stars he can do crazy damage, and at 3 stars he's you know, almost unbeatable in the right comp and going up against, you know, the right team. So overall, just a really good card. I don't think the hits, the range nerf really hurt him that much. And just still really usable in a lot of comps. It's very hard to get a 3-star because almost everybody's running him, and if they're not running him, they're blocking him. And that's smart, because at a 3-star level, he's just broken. Does so much damage, and that's why he is in number 8. At number 7, we have the Skeleton King. Juggernauts have taken over this season, and that's why Skeleton King is so high on this list. Now, the Undead trait kind of brings him down a few pegs, but if you can get a ton of troops lined up in his AoE, and he just wails on them over and over again, turns them all into skeletons, he can overtake a game. Now, his hit speed is pretty slow, and if he doesn't have, you know, if he's going up against a high HP troop, he's pretty useless because he dies pretty quickly, just because he doesn't do a ton of concentrated damage. Is that area of effect damage that really makes him good. But the Juggernaut trait carries him all the way to number 7 on the list. His stats are good. I think, yeah, here we go. His stats are very good for being, you know, even a 5 elixir card. He just has a ton of HP. His damage is pretty good. Slow hit speed, but, you know, he just being a Juggernaut, he's one of the better ones that you'll run. Just because, I mean, there aren't a ton of comps that use Undead, but especially the Skeleton King and Witch pair very well, because you get all the skeletons just overrunning the entire map. Very good card this season, that's why he's at number 7. For those same reasons, we have the Knight coming in at number 6. Now, the Noble trait is much better than Undead, especially at 2 out of 4 this season. I use the Knight in a lot of comps. He's 2 Elixir, he has the Juggernaut trait, makes him very, very valuable. His HP for a 2 Elixir card is very, very good. His damage is not great, but you don't need him for damage. You need him for the Juggernaut trait. You'll use him in some 2 out of 4 Noble traits. And just being such a cheap card that's so tanky, carries him so high up in the meta this season. Plus, just, because he's so cheap and he activates one of the best traits, he's easy to pick up, just hold on your bench. You're not wasting a ton of elixir, and then you can throw him in if you need him. You can keep him with block. So it's just a very valuable card this season. He's not crazy. He doesn't have his ability. He doesn't have an ability. His stats aren't insane, but he just has a ton of value, the most valuable 2 costs by far, and that's why he is at number 6. At number 5 is the Valkyrie. Again, another Juggernaut that is taking over the game. Her clan tag is not nearly as good as the Noble tag, but just because of her area damage and her massive hit points, and her damage really isn't that bad either. It's pretty respectable damage. She gets carried all the way up to number 5. An incredibly valuable card this season. I had her ranked very highly last season, and the Juggernaut, or the Avenger to Juggernaut swap, made her even better, I think. Just not broken, but very, very good. Could she be balanced a bit? Maybe. I think overall Juggernauts could be balanced a bit more than the nerf we saw. But just the fact that she has that very valuable tag with the Juggernaut. And the clan is even useful sometimes. When I'm running brawlers, I'll always run 2 Juggernauts with them. Valkyrie is one of those because she gives the clan tag she shares the clan tag with the Barbarian, which just heals them, gives them more HP and hit speed, which is just very valuable in that comp. So overall, she is just a super solid unit on every front this season, and that's why she is at number 5. At number 4, I have Executioner, and this may surprise a lot of you, and a lot of y'all may completely disagree with me, but for 3 Elixir, you are not going to get a card that does more damage. He is crazy. The Ace trait is not very good overall, but when you get it on the Executioner with Pekka or with a Mega Knight, you're not really running Bandit, but either one of those, you get the trait on the Executioner as long as he's the higher star card. That boosts his damage, his hit speed, and then you get the Blaster synergy with him, which does more damage at range. His range turns into 5 tiles. It's crazy. And then you got to remember that it's not just 139 damage. It's 139 there, and it's 139 back. Plus that scales with the Ace, plus that scales with the Blaster. Obviously, it scales with more cards. And at the end of the day, you have a Executioner who's doing crazy amounts of damage. One-shotting 2 stars, absolutely insane. For 3 Elixir, he's very, very good. He's the second best Blaster, in my opinion. Just overall, a really, really good damage dealing card. I use him in a lot of comps that I use Blaster in. And it's just a fun card. I mean, I made a video about him because he's my favorite card this season. I might be a bit biased. A lot of y'all may disagree. Let me know what you think of Executioner in the comments. Are you using him a lot? Do you think he's good? Do you not use him at all? Just let me know, but I think he's really fun. I think he's very, very good at dealing damage, and that's why he's at number 4. At number 3, we have Musketeer, the best Blaster in the game, and overall one of the most well-rounded units. Her damage is not bad at all. She has enough HP to survive for a long time. Her knockback is crazy, and her stuns are awesome. And the reason why she is so high on this list is because her knockback and her stuns are not limited to a 3 or a 4-star Musketeer. She does that at the same distance and the same stuns at 1 and 2 stars. And that's why she is so good and the 3rd best. I mean, she's on the podium for a 3 Elixir card who was just introduced. And the Noble tag isn't even really that good. Now, the Blaster is good. She's the best Blaster, in my opinion. That makes her very valuable. But the fact that she can knock back and stun units at 1 star is so incredibly valuable. I swap her in to so many comps, like almost all of my comps except for a few, assassins or, whatever. There are a few comps that don't use her. But as far as she goes with, pairing with Knight and another Blaster that you throw in the back line, she is so strong this season. Just a ton of value for a 3 Elixir card. A lot of people play her, so it's hard to get a 4 or a 3-star. But again, you don't need to, because at a 2-star, she still does just as well, and her damage is still respectable. Very good card this season. That's why she's at number 3. At number 2, we have Golden Knight, the absolute Chad of Merge Tactics. Do I even need to explain myself here? He is crazy good this season. The Noble trait is very good with him because you can boost his damage by putting him in the back 2 rows, and the Assassin's trait boosts his critical chance, critical damage. Just overall, a really good pairing that allows him to do a ton of damage. His HP is very good. He's a 5 Elixir card. His ability is obviously barely short of broken, and sometimes it is broken. It is the most fun card to play by far, just because he can get some crazy dashes. If you get him a 4-star, like Chaos modifier, he does 500% bonus damage when he dashes, wipes teams off the floor. I mean, it's crazy what he can do, especially even at 3 stars, even at 2, if somebody's blocking him. I mean, he's just overall a great card. Pairs very well with goblins and with the goblin and the juggernauts, stab goblin. Just a great team. You get the shield on them. They're immune to stuns. You get the extra damage because you put them in the back line when paired with the knight. You get the extra shield HP on him, which means that he just lasts for long. And of course, you get the goblin synergy, activating the assassin's trait, which gives him the bonus damage. Just a very good team, and he's usable in a lot of other comps besides that. Even if you don't have assassins, he's a good card to use for nobles. Just because even if he just happens to get a dash, his stats are good. He has good health, does good damage, and if he gets a dash off, then that's very, very good for your team. So overall, just a very, very good card this season. I don't think he's broken just because he's very inconsistent. If he was getting crazy dashes every time, I think they'd have to do something. But you really have to play him well or just get lucky to get a dash. And so that's why he's not broken in the game, I don't think. That's why he's not number 1. But he is a very, very good card this season. At number 1, we have the world's most hated green baby. Goblin Machine is broken this season for several reasons. Number 1, he has the Goblin synergy with me, which means that with Goblin Queen or without, he is just, constantly popping more goblins into your hand, producing more elixir, which is very valuable to get from a card. He has the Juggernaut trait, best trait in the game, which gives you a ton of shield, extra HP, extra bonus shield, plus immune to stuns. He does stuns, crazy stuns to the backline, which are so frustrating to play against, because odds are that if you're running a Goblin Machine, your opponents aren't running Juggernauts, so their backline units are very immune to stuns. And I feel like stuns this season are so powerful. Plus, with a huge Juggernaut buff, it just launched Goblin Machine into first place. This might be controversial, a lot of y'all might disagree, but I've played a lot of Goblin Queen this season, and I've played enough Spirit Empress as well to know that he's very good across both rulers, which is another thing to consider. How usable is he? Most of these cards on this list aren't used with Goblin Queen because you need to run goblins, but of course Goblin Machine is, his HP is very good. You don't need him to do a ton of damage, but his rockets do damage. He also has, I don't know if it's a glitch, but every once in a while when he launches a rocket, he will change a target to somebody else who's attacking him. And sometimes that can be very, very useful. Sometimes it's not. I don't know if that's an intended feature or what, but he does do that sometimes, which, switches things up a bit, makes him a bit more dangerous. Overall, he is just very, very well-rounded. He does a bit of everything that you want. Tons of survivability, decent damage, and he stuns. Plus, he gives you great traits. So overall, I think he is the best card in Merge Tactics right now. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you agree with the tier list. Let me know what you think I got wrong. Let me know what you think I got right. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and subscribe if you want to see more Merge Tactics content. Thank you guys for watching. I will see y'all in the next one.